Well, good morning, everybody. Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead. We're out here kind of early this morning, guys. I just got through feeding the cows. Just got up early this morning before daylight and looked, and the radar showed light rain everywhere. I was like, yes, we need some light rain. Come outside, and it was nothing. I was like, I looked, everything's still dry. I was like, okay, all right. But that's okay because we got almost 4 inches of rain last week in just about 3 or 4 hours. And it done a lot of washing again. But then again, when you live in the deep south where we live at here, with our elevation, see, that's what most people don't understand. We're not far from the Gulf Coast, but we're 300 and something feet above sea level. And when the clouds come in, we don't get nothing. If it's just a light rain system coming through, we usually don't get anything, because when it comes to where we're at, it kind of opens up and goes around this big hill system we live on, and it comes back together on the other side. With us, it's usually feast or famine. When we get rain, it's cloud tops at around the 30 or 40,000 feet range, and when they come in, it floods. Now there are periods of time when we'll get some light rain, but it's when the weather's coming from a specific direction and it's coming in with a cold front or something like that, we'll get some light rain. But usually if it's coming out of the southwest or something like that, or the east or the south, it's feast or famine. We either get nothing or we get floods, and this past week was one of those floods. But it filled the ponds back up here at Deep South. They're all full to the top. A little muddy, but they're clearing up pretty quick. All the land above us has been cleared, and now there's nothing but oak trees and stuff up there, and over winter all those leaves fall, and when that rain comes gushing down through all that property coming down our way, we get tons of debris piles up against the fences and stuff, and oak leaves start piling up, and then the pond gets this stuff all over the top of the water where the leaves are just on top of the water, and they have to all settle to the bottom, and which is not a bad thing because it's good organic matter for the pond. That's the reason ponds or dead lakes off of rivers and stuff do so well, is because of all the leaves and stuff that lay in them. But it's been one of those weeks that we have busted our tails. Got a lot done this week, not only here, but over at Pecan Grove. We got a lot done over there. Still haven't moved the cows because the rainstorms are just not conducive to us wanting to move the cattle right now. The grass was up luscious and green, and we got that freeze of 20-something degrees, and it killed it back just a little bit. It's already back green, but it hasn't come back to where I wanted it to put the cows on it. Now all the ryegrass was doing fine; it didn't hurt it, but all the bahia and stuff like that out in the fields, I want it to be just a little bit deeper before I put the cows over there, and where they can have a really, really good start on that. Now here, Deep South Homestead is at one of those stages where everything just looks horrible because I don't mow anymore, because we have red clover everywhere now, and mixed in with it is weeds and grass and all this kind of stuff, and it's like half knee deep in most places, and the clover's got the red tops on it now, and I don't cut it, and it looks horrible, and it just, used to I would have had it mowed, manicured, and everything taken care of, but now I'm more about nitrogen fixing stuff, more about permaculture, and I'll wait till the tops of the clovers all die and the seeds are ready to come off of it. Then I will go in and start mowing. And that's the reason you guys are going to see in a lot of our videos, stuff just looks a little bit ragged, so don't criticize us too bad. It's because we're letting it do its thing, putting stuff back into the soil so that we get a better return out of everything. Now there's places where there's no clover and there's just grass and weeds. We are mowing those little patches here and there, and that's what makes it look so ragged. There's just little spots here and there that's been mowed and hadn't been mowed. And with that being said, you know, y'all know if you watch this very long, about 2 or 3 years ago, I bought Miss Wanda a 0-turn lawnmower. Well, she's mowed with it a few times, but she just don't like it. It's just not in her makeup to operate a 0-turn mower. She's not a mechanically inclined person. So this week, I went and bought her what she wanted. She's been looking for, that's not exactly what she wanted, but she had been looking for a 30-inch cut riding mower, kind of like the old snappers were, but they just don't make them. I mean, we see them online and we contact the companies and stuff like that, and went to Tractor Supply. They said they could get them. Nope, they can't get them here. I mean, we just went to all kinds of small engine places I did and all, and everybody's like, why would you want a 30-inch cut? There's 42s, 46, 60-inch. I'm like, but that's what she wants. She wanted a rear motor, like a snapper, where you're looking right at your deck, right under your feet and all that. Couldn't find it, so we ended up going with a Husqvarna 42-inch cut. She has fell in love with it. It's hydrostat. She loves it. She can inch it along and get right where she wants to get. And she has been mowing her heart out, and it just makes me happy to see her happy in doing what she wants to do. And hopefully now she will get out and keep a lot of everything mowed once it becomes time, and take some of the pressure off of me where I can actually get other projects done. But guys, I know you guys probably don't know this, but we got in the new rules. I mean, YouTube gives out the new rules every so often about what you can do, what you can't do, what you can say, what you can't say, topics you can't go, you know, that you can't deal with, you know, things that you can have in your thumbnails, things you can't have in your thumbnails, all this kind of stuff. We got that, and I'm very limited now. You know, it irritates me to a point, and I'm very limited as to what we can and cannot do to keep from getting strikes or, you know, having the channel pulled or whatever. And I know a lot of y'all are going to say, go over to Rumble, go over to this, go do that, you know, go. And guys, let me tell you a story, okay? Y'all know I raise cows. I raise the Dexters, and occasionally we take one off to have him slaughtered, or we sell one of them. And when I get ready to load them up, I start off with a large corral. I'll run all the cows into a large corral, and then from that large corral, I separate out the ones that I want to do something with, whether it be to sell or to butcher or whatever. I separate them into a smaller corral. And then once I have them in that smaller corral, in other words, I keep taking their freedoms away from them as I keep moving them down until eventually I get them into the chute. And once I get them into that chute and get them headed down that chute, then I can block them where they can't back up. And they're pretty much stuck there. They can't get out. They have to go forward. And they have to comply with what I want, and which means and if they don't, I have a cattle prod, which luckily I haven't had to use that on but one of my cows since I've been raising them. I don't like doing that, but I will do it if I have to. And if one will not comply and he just, you know, is just very resistant, that's usually the reason I'm getting rid of him, is because he's just got a bad personality. And I'll hit them with that cattle prod and make them jump and go on in like a cattle trailer or something. But anyway, I load them into the chute, and once they get started down that chute, they have no clue what's at the other end. They just know it's a long chute, and they take off down it. When they get down there, there's a cattle trailer, and they load up into that cattle trailer, and there's usually feed in there. Well, they get to eating that feed, and I just close the doors behind them and close them off, and then they get through eating the feed. They're just standing there. They're like, what happened? And then I crank up the truck, we hit the road, and we take them to the slaughterhouse. They're slaughtered, or somebody comes and picks them up and takes them to their place. Now, one's a happy ending and one's a not so happy ending. social media is a lot like that now. Everybody keeps saying, go over to Rumble, go here, go to Parlor, go here, go do this, go there. Go over to Brighteon. We've been to all these. We've been to them. We have some videos up on them. And guys, the DoD, the Department of Defense, monitors all social media platforms. Okay? That's the reason you have like a 2-second delay on every platform. That's because it goes through their systems, and AI can monitor it that fast. Shut it down. They can do whatever they need to do if they have to. Social media, going to these other platforms, is a lot like me loading those cows up. People that are certain idealistic type people, they tend to flock to particular platforms. That's much like me putting the cows into a bigger corral. And from that corral, then you have even more supposedly free platforms. And people flock to those. It's like me moving them to a smaller corral. And then finally, you get your right-winged minded people, your very conservative minded people that only do specific things, that only listen to specific things. It's like putting them in that chute, and you just getting them going down that chute, and they thinking, man, we've got this thing, we got our freedoms, we doing this and that. And guys, that's not the world we live in. Because when you get to the end down there, they're waiting for you. That's the whole game of this whole social media platform. In the very near future, this is where it's all headed, is to the stock trailer. And then from there, they know who you are. There's no questioning who you are because you've followed the system all the way down into the chute, and now you're in the trailer. And guys, that's what we're trying to avoid here at Deepsouth Homestead. It's not that I'm complying. I don't comply. I don't believe in complying. I am trying to, what is the phrase? I'm trying to, it's much like when I go hunting. I used to be a big time archery hunter. I've killed 73 deer with a bow and arrow. And since I've torn my rotator cuff, I can no longer use the compound. I now have to use a crossbow. But to me, it was the art of taking the animal in their own environment and seeing just how close I could get to them and do it. I've killed deer 3 feet from me, literally, with a bow and arrow. And so it's kind of much like that with this social media platform. We're being drawn in, and we're drawn down to a very tight-knit group, and then when we get there, then that's where the execution comes in of all the things that they have planned. But I said that to say, so don't jump on us because you think we're not complying, because technically I'm trying to beat them at their own game, if you want to call it that, like the deer hunting. I'm beating that animal at his own game. I'm taking him in his own environment, and yet he doesn't even realize that I'm there. So that's part of my background anyway, is being able to get in and get out and do things without being noticed. And so that's what I want to do with Deepsouth Homestead. That's why you're seeing me change some things I say and how I say them and the way I present things. Now, right now, the biggest issue you're going to face right now is what's going on in the heavens around us. Let's use that phrase because I can't use the W-E-A-T-H-E-R word much anymore, or the C-L-I-M-A-T-E word anymore. So we're going to talk about the heavens around us, how that they're not very conducive and very plant friendly anymore because the ultraviolet rays are not reaching our plants like they should. And that's what we're going to be doing at Deepsouth Homestead, is trying to be able to take you and show you in the ground planting versus container planting versus raised bed planting versus starting things in seed trays, this type of stuff. We talked about this on the live stream the other night. how that and a lot of y'all who watched the live stream remembered this. When I was a small boy, we had implements and feed stores and stuff like that around. The feed stores were nothing like what they are now. The implements are nothing like what they are now. You go into an old implement store, and the old wood floors in it, you'd hear them creaking and cracking when you walked on them, and you saw all kinds of horse harnesses, mule harnesses, single trees, all kind of cultivators and plows and plow points and plowshares and hoes and rakes and shovels and seeds in bins everywhere, and they were sold by the scoops. You know, they'd give you a little brown paper bag and they'd scoop it up in it, and they'd write with a marker on the outside what it was. It was weighed and had the weight on the outside of it. Big wash tubs were sitting around the floor with water in the bottom of them, and they'd have things like tomato plants and pepper plants and sweet potato draws, things like that in bundles. The tomatoes were you hardly ever seen a hybrid. They were almost all heirlooms. You would buy 50 to a bundle, or you could get 100 to a bundle. I think 50 was like, I don't know, it's like $1 for 50 of them. A bundle of 100 was $1.50 or something like that. And they were bare root. He would pull them up out of the water, and he had a brown paper. He would wrap them in this brown paper, put a rubber band around it, and just put them over in a paper bag for you. You brought it home. You made your rows up, and lots of people didn't even plant them that day. They just stuck them over in some water again, and you made your rows up, and you fertilized them. And I remember my father, gosh, bless his soul, I remember him just like it was today, taking the end of his hoe handle, walking down through the garden and punching the holes in the center of the rows that he made up with the old Cub tractor. And I loved his setups. My dad always made these weird setups to go into the Cub tractor. He'd have a bull tongue or plow point, whatever most people want to call it, and across it he'd bolt a piece of metal or a board across it, so when it, and have the half shovels throwing the dirt up, and when that plow would go down the middle, it would flatten the top of the bed off and leave a little V trench in it so you could put the fertilizer in it. And he didn't have all the planter hoppers and all that kind of stuff. He just did things the old-fashioned way. But he was always ingenious in making stuff. But I could still see him jobbing them tomato holes down through there, and pepper holes with that hoe handle. And us kids would come along behind him, and we just drop the plant in the hole. You just drop that tomato plant in the hole. You didn't push no dirt in around it, nothing. You just drop it in the hole. And then you had another one of those kids coming behind it with a 5-gallon bucket full of water, which was usually my job because I was the oldest and could tote the most. And I just had a cup. I reach in there and pour a cup of water in that hole, and the dirt would just fall in around that plant. And that's all we did. And them plants would just take off, and I mean, they would flourish. We had tomatoes like by the bushels. And Mama would make the best tomato gravy, old brown tomato gravy with good old cat head biscuits and stuff like that. And she would make stewed tomatoes and can them. She'd make tomato juice. I mean, my mama cans like crazy. And then the pepper plants were the same way. You just drop a pepper plant down in the hole, pour the water in around it. There wasn't all this babying it, making sure the dirt was just right and all this kind of stuff. And sweet potatoes, Daddy would make the rows up, and he didn't flatten the tops of those rows off. He just bed up a big old row, and he'd go down through there jobbing holes in it. And back then, sweet potato draws were like 10 to 12 inches long. And he would come down through there and pop them holes down in that, and we just dropped them draws down in there. Same thing with them, pour the water in around them, and the dirt would wash in. Stuff just growed. Now, it's not like that anymore. I told this in the live stream the other night. I was at the printing company getting my manuals that I wrote. I got a local printing company I let print for me. The man was a friend of mine, been a friend of mine my whole life, and he was there during my wife's cancer for me, and came out, excuse me, he came out I had sawed up about 5 logs for firewood, and I didn't have time to bust them because I had to be with my wife 24 hours a day because of her cancer. And he would come out after church on Sundays, and he would either bust it and stack it, or if I had a chance to go out and bust it, he would come out and stack it for me under the shed. And I don't forget people who really have been good to me. And now he owns a printing company, and I let him print all my manuals. Everybody goes, oh, you could go to Amazon, you could save money, you could do this, you could do that. I ain't interested in the big box stores. This guy was a friend to me in a crisis time, and I'm going to be a friend to him by letting him have my business. And when I was at his store, he was telling me that, and the same thing I told on the live stream the other night, he was talking about how he needed some celebrity plants. He loves celebrity tomatoes, him and his wife. Very country people. They like gardening and stuff like that. He said, I couldn't find any celebrity seeds nowhere. He said, I finally found some celebrity tomato plants. He says, and they wanted $5 a plant. He said, I was like, what? He said, and I walked around that store for an hour. He said, finally I went back and bought one. He said, my kids felt sorry for me and bought me a second one. He said, so I have 2 tomato plants. It's $10 worth of tomatoes. He said, I could probably buy the tomatoes for that. He said, and then I don't even know if they're going to produce. And the freeze almost got him. It did get his squash and stuff like that he was telling me, but even though he had it covered, it still got it. But that's where we're at. Our plants and vegetables now are costing us so much money in these cups when guys, it doesn't have to be like that. You can, I have 192 cell trays sitting in this little greenhouse right here in front of me from Hoss Tool. You can run over that thing with a car or whatever, it won't hurt it. And I'm raising my okra seeds in that thing right now and waiting for them just to come up. But it's so cold in the mornings and so hot in the day till I don't know if they're going to come up. You know, I usually direct sow my okra in the ground, but I end up with big skips in it and everything. So I've learned if I can grow it in these cell trays, when it comes up, I can plant my plants, and I've got a perfect stand of okra. Now this is the Star of David okra that I planted. This was seeds from 2015 or 16. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was way back yonder. And I'm going to see if they'll come up. They've been in my seed bank for a long time, and I'm just experimenting with them because it's still early, and if they come up, I'm good. If they don't, I got plenty of time to redo it. But, you know, guys, it's a different world today. Everything is just different. The CLIMATE is different. The DBEATHER is different. The SUN is different. Everything is just different. It's not like it was when I was telling you, like my dad would go along and poke the hole and we'd throw the plant, dump the water, and just forget about it, and it would do fantastic. Daddy would come back and plow them one time, then we'd come back and stake them. Most of those ways aren't conducive anymore. Now we have to grow all of these different types of hybrids and stuff like that that are disease resistant to verticillium wilt, to tobacco mosaic viruses, and about a dozen different nematode resistance. I mean, they got a dozen different other things that they're cracking, all kinds of stuff. We look for tomatoes that are resistant and all these, and it doesn't mean they're GMO. They're not genetically modified. They're hybrids, which there's nothing wrong with them. They may not have the nutritional value that the old heirlooms did, but they're still good tomatoes. You just can't save the seed from them. You get where I'm going this? Think about, keep in mind the story I'm telling you, because I'm talking in riddles. Remember the cattle corral, how that you started off with the big one, then the little one, then the chute, then the trailer, then the end, the slaughterhouse. Plants, we're no longer getting them in the bundles where they're easy to grow, the big corral system. Now we're down to the little cups and the little things like this, and we're into the next corral system, and now we're down to where we're having to look for the ones that are the disease resistant and all this kind of. We're into the chute, and then it's going to get to where nothing will grow, and it'll have to be some kind of genetically modified seed, and then you'll be in the trailer, and then once you eat that kind of food, then you yourself are like the cow at the slaughterhouse. You're sick, you're not necessarily that the cow is sick, but the end result is the same. You're in the doctor's offices, and then you end up passing from some sort of illnesses or something. Like the end is the same. If you can follow, I'm trying to take y'all on a journey down a road and actually not say something outright, but maybe tell a story to get the point across. That's where we're at with our growing of food today. It's only going to get worse. You can do this research if you want to. I mean, it's on the USDA department if you know how to find it. There's lots of studies now on gamma rays. I've talked to y'all about that before, the effects of gamma rays on seeds, because right now the Earth's magnetic fields are weak and we're taking in lots of radiation, and the Earth's giving off this radiation in the form of gamma rays, which is not only harmful to the plants and their root systems, it's harmful to us as human beings. That's why I've advocated raising in containers, get stuff up off the ground, preferably 8 inches high or 10 inches high off the ground on blocks or something in containers, so that it's not so affected by it, and then get it in partial shade where it's not exposed to the full sun all day long, because when plants say full sun now, technically that is a what's the word? It's a psyop type statement. It's a half truth. Full sun now just simply means 4 to 6 hours of sunshine because of the intensity of the sun and the UV rays, the radiation from it and all, but they're not telling you that. So keep your, and preferably you want the morning sun, you do not want the evening sun. So I hope that today, guys, while I'm sitting here talking to you guys in roundabout ways, hope it's coming across and it's settling in with you. Much like the scripture says, some seeds, the Bible talks about the sower, talks about some seed fell on good ground, some fell on stony ground, some fell on grounds with lots of weeds in it and stuff. Some were choked out by the weeds. Some came up and sprung up and done really good, and then when the hot sun came, they withered away because their root system was no good. And then some that fell on good ground, which would be growing in containers, 10 inches, 8 to 10 inches off the ground, where you can monitor it. Those in good ground, you can take care of it. They do really well. Inside a high tunnel or a greenhouse, a controlled environment, those are the ones that fell upon good ground. Now, of course, we know the story in the scriptures talks about the life of people and the salvation down the track. I'm having to watch my words, guys. That's where we're at. Just like the scriptures talks about the seed sowing, it's the same way with our life trying to raise our food, because the biggest thing you can do right now for yourself is to get away to raise your own food. And the thing that really gets me with all of this is that the United States government back during the World Wars actually advocated victory gardens. It advocated community gardens. It advocated people growing stuff at home and things to this nature. They even sent out pamphlets and booklets and all that kind of stuff telling people how to do it best and all this kind of stuff, because they really wanted people to be able to survive. And now it's just the opposite. I've talked to several master gardeners here in the last few years, and the stuff that they're being taught is not right. Not that I know everything, but I do have a lot of experience in growing a lot of different things, and I've watched some of their techniques, and mine flourishes where theirs is dying. And they don't understand. They said, I followed the books. I did everything just like they said do it. And I told them, I said, that way doesn't work anymore. I mean, if there's anything that's ever been true, it is that change will happen regardless. And that is, I don't plant like my daddy used to plant. You know, I mean, my daddy used to do, like I was telling you about those tomatoes and doing stuff like that. I don't plant like that now because more than likely it won't work anymore. I've done some experimenting with it, and things just get eat up. The bugs, the heat, everything takes care of it, just destroys them, and it won't work. You know, so change. We have to be changing to meet the present time. And change is not always bad if it's done in the right form. So, guys, Porch Time today is literally, it's a different world. We're not living in the same world we used to be living in. We're living in a different world. And when you live in a different world, it requires different methodology, however you say that word. It requires experimenting with new things. It requires thinking outside the box, not only with gardening, but with spiritually. I mean, we got to think outside the box because there's so many things happening in the world today that is literally against us, and we have to begin now to think outside the box. You know, I'm an inventor. I have been an inventor. I have had patents and different things, and that is one of the things that that sets someone apart, different from other people. Is some people are thinkers, and some people are not. Some people just go with the flow, whatever's going on, that's what they do. And some people, I'm one of those that think outside the box. If like my Farmall Cub planter that I got, the 176, I thought was a 174, and I realized it was a 176. And some of the parts were missing. I had to think outside the box, and I had to create and build new parts for it based off of pictures. I mean, that's what it's all about. Don't give up. It's a different world. We've got to learn to do things differently than we used to do them. So I got to get busy. We're fixing to probably shoot some more videos, and the weather's nice this morning. It's nice and cool, cloudy. We're going to try to get a few things taken care of this morning before I actually have to hit the road. So guys, just remember, it's a different world. What used to work don't work anymore, not necessarily. Some things don't, some things still do, but lots of things don't. We've got to think outside the box. Be the one that sets the new standard. Okay? We love you, we appreciate you, and guys, thank y'all so much for watching Deepsouth Homestead. We have Pecan Grove over on Patreon. Occasionally over here we will show you a few clips from there. Not very often, but on the Danny Corn we'll give you updates on it and stuff like that. And today we moved the cows, we may show you some stuff like that. But please understand that Pecan Grove is not Deepsouth Homestead. That's Pecan Grove. And it has to remain Pecan Grove. I can't make it Deepsouth Homestead. This is Deepsouth Homestead. So, and I'm not going to start another channel. I don't have time. We already spend 8 to 10 hours a day just at Deepsouth Homestead, making videos and filming and taking care of everything here. And we don't have time to do another channel over there. Patreon, we do it over there because Patreon, we can just shoot a little quick clip, throw it up, and it's maybe an hour involved in everything, the editing and all. Not a lot involved in it, just simply because I don't have time to do it, and neither does Wanda. And things are fixing to get even more chaotic, which means we're going to have even less time as the gardening season progresses. So once again, thank you guys for just listening to us. You know, coming over here and being a part of our community. We love you, and the Lord loves you most of all. Remember that. If you don't remember anything else, the Lord loves you. See you in the next video. Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.